Hi there, this is Dr. Evan Osar, developer of the Integrative Movement System. Welcome to video number 2 of this 4-part series on the thorax, the missing link to many of your athletes' shoulder and hip issues. And this is a preview of my talk at this year's IYCA 2023 Virtual Summit. The link is next to this video to learn more about that event. If you're interested in attending, and if you're training athletes, you should be at this event. So in the first video, we discussed how the thorax is a series of stacked rings over top of the pelvic ring, forming the thoraco-pelvic cylinder. And the cylinder must be mobile, so we need the mobility to create optimal rotation, side bending, flexion, and extension, and we also need the stability of the thoraco-pelvic cylinder. However, for too many of our clients, they're locking their thorax down because they're over gripping from their shoulders, they're pulling their shoulders down on their thorax, that locks the rib cage up. And they're also not breathing well. So breathing is going to be the missing key to helping to reestablish more optimal mobility as well as rotation, and more importantly, helping your athlete maintain their mobility and rotation. So you're going to do your myofascial release, you're going to do your mobilizations, all the things that you already know how to do. I'm going to share with you just 2 simple ways to, number 1, improve pure axial rotation, or that rotation on that virtual axis running through the top of the head and down through the spine. And then I'll show you how to get your athletes breathing better so that they're able to maintain their mobility as well as their rotation. So all you need is a roller, just put the knee on, and it's a pad for the head. I'm going to set myself up so the shoulder, I'm directly on my bottom shoulder, I'm directly on my bottom hip, and the top leg goes upon the roller. So I'm placing my hand behind my head. So going this direction, I'm working on left rotation. The goal isn't to see how far I can go. My goal here is to see how well I can align and control the rotation, so it will actually be much more limited than you see many athletes performing. So hand goes behind the head. We're going to breathe in, and then as I breathe out, I'm going to rotate back. And the goal here is to keep the ribs down, connected to the pelvis. We're going to breathe in, come back forward, breathe out, and rotate. One more time. We're going to breathe in, come forward, breathe out, and rotate. Again, this bottom arm locks the body into position. The downside of the body gets locked into position, and the top side is creating rotation. It's a great pattern to not only develop shoulder stability, but then the ability to stabilize on one shoulder as you're creating rotation through the trunk and spine. Generally, we'll have our athletes do 5 or 6 repetitions to one side and repeat, and usually they'll do 2 to 3 more sets on the side of restriction. So again, when I checked my pre-assessment, I was limited in left trunk rotation. I did 1 set of about 5 repetitions. There's my right rotation, and my left rotation is much better already. But again, remember, you would have done your myofascial release and mobilization work prior to this. Now, the next piece of helping your athlete reestablish optimal mobility and rotation is getting your clients to breathe well. And the focus is going to be breathing into the backside of the thorax. So if you see my thumbs here on the backside of the thorax, you want to get your athletes breathing through that region of the thorax. That's where the diaphragm is attaching into the backside of the rib cage. The spine is where the psoas is coming up and fascially blending into the diaphragm. The psoas is a fascial connection between the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. The quadratus lumborum fascially blends up there, and the transversus abdominis also fascially blends into the diaphragm, the psoas, and the quadratus lumborum. So have your athlete put their thumbs on the backside of the rib cage. They're going to focus on sending their breath in through their nose and then breathing out and around their lower rib cage, expanding out through the sides and the backside of the rib cage. And they're breathing out and remaining long through their spine. Again, breathing in, breathing out, and one more time, breathing in and breathing out. And we'll have our athletes do 3 sets of 8 to 10 breaths like that. Now we want to teach our athlete how to incorporate or integrate that 3-dimensional breathing and that more optimal breathing into the backside of the rib cage, and also activate their core. So we'll use several different patterns, but here I'll show you just one pattern. We're going to use Happy Baby. So I'm going to have my athlete go on their back. They're going to align their thoracolpelvic cylinder. They're going to bring one knee up, making sure the cylinder stays aligned. Second leg comes up, arms come up, and now their core is activated, and they're still focusing on sending their breath through the back side of that thoracolpelvic cylinder or that backside of the rib cage. Still breathing in and out through the nose, focusing the breath all the way around the cylinder and then all the way down through the cylinder. So again, we're developing that cylinder stability that we need. The rotation developed the mobility. Now we're developing this stability. Your athlete should be able to hold this position with no discomfort in their back or their neck. They shouldn't be shaking. You shouldn't see any abdominal distension or their back going into thoracolumbar hyperextension. So the ribs stay down, angled down towards the pelvis. The pelvis stays neutral. The lumbar spine stays relatively neutral. And the athlete, even when their core is braced, should still be able to have a conversation with you in this position to let you know they're using an optimal strategy. And again, we'll have our athlete hold that for 3 sets of 8 to 10 breaths. So there you have it, a very simple way to work on improving pure axial rotation, rotation through the axis, through the top of the head, down through the spine, to improve the quality of your athlete's rotation. And then we developed a strategy to help improve the mobility of the thorax and getting your clients to breathe optimally. So that way they have access to mobility throughout their spine and they're not locking down with their shoulders, they're not locking down with their erectors, and they're able to access the diaphragm, the psoas, the quadratus lumborum, the transverse abdominis, all those muscles that fascially blend into the core and the backside of the spine. And then we integrated that into the Happy Baby pattern to reinforce core stability and that idea of having that long spine, that stable core, so that we have that available to us when we need it. In part 3, I'm going to demonstrate how to integrate this into some fundamental movement patterns. Because yes, you need the mobility. Yes, you need to be able to rotate. Yes, you need the stability. And you also need to teach your athletes how to integrate this into the fundamental rotation and chop patterns. I'll demonstrate that next. And again, if you're looking for more information on this topic, as well as what the IYCA 2023 Virtual Summit is all about, click on the link and we'll see you inside. I'll see you in part 3. This is Dr. Evan Osar. Take care.